Okay, welcome everyone, and as Barry just said, a Fred Chanukah to all, as we're sponsored by Shalom Fogel, Lilu Nishmas, Yaakov Zev ben Yehuda Aryeh, Rivka bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam bas God, Yosef ben Tzion ben Yaakov Zev, Lefu Shalema for Moshe Aryeh ben Miriam, and for a great shidduch for Chayat Tzivya bas Shoshana Gittel was sponsored by Baruch Ian, Lila Nishmas, Yaakov Chaim ben Abba, Esther bas Yona, Avram ben Shmuel HaKayin, Lefu Shalema for Liba bas Anya. We're sponsored by A.B. Spry. We're sponsored for the spiritual, emotional, and physical protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel ben Bela Shendel Rivka. We're sponsored by Mark Frankel in loving memory of his father Yisrael Tzvi ben Chaim Yeshua Falik. And we're sponsored by Berish Gesem and Lefu Shalema for Shoshana bas Adina Chana. We learn for Chaver Adaf, Aaron ben Sarah, and Nachman Yaakov ben Sarah. They should have a refuah shalema b'sech she'achel Yisrael.
Mordechai Tzvi ben Ruschana.
Mordechai Tzvi ben Ruschana.
Chaya Freda bas Rachel Rivka.
Chaya Freda bas Rachel Rivka. They should have a refuah shalema b'sech she'achel Yisrael. Okay, we're holding on the Gemara on the bottom of Tzadik Gimel Amud Beis. Gemara on the bottom of Tzadik Gimel Amud Beis. So, Menani Mili, how do we know that the law of rinsing, of washing, applies not just to a beged, but also to and sack, to leather and sackcloth? The Tanur Rabbanan beged says in the pasuk beged, Ein li ela beged. I only know cloth. How do I know to include hide once it's flayed? Whatever it sprays on, you should wash. I might think you have to wash it even before it's flayed from the animal. It has to be something that's fit to be susceptible to contamination. But while a hide is on an animal, it's not susceptible to contamination. Now, Rabbi Yehuda holds that it's enough if it's if it's fit to be Mekabel Tumah, even if right now it can't be Mekabel Tumah because you didn't make it into a keli yet. But it is fit right now because if you say it's good as it is as a mat, it'll be Mekabel Tumah. Rebbe Lazar ups it. He ups the ante. Beged. Ainli ala beged minayin l'rabbi sack. How do I know to include sackcloth and v'kol minei begadim, all other begadim except the two standard begadim in the Torah is tzemer upishtim, wool and linen. How do we know to include all other materials? Talmud Leimer asher oleha techabes. Whatever the blood goes on it should be washed. Yachol shani marbe, even or mishahufshet, hide when it's flayed before it was made into a keli. Says Gemara Talmud Leimer beged ma beged davar makabel tumah. It's something that's susceptible right now to tumah. Af kol davar makabel tumah. The hide, once it's flayed, is not susceptible until you make it into a keli. Now the Gemara gives examples of what's the difference between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Eliezer. My beinayu. What's the difference between them? Amar Abaya matlis pchusa mishalosh ike beinayu. A piece of fabric which is less than 3 finger breadths is the difference between them. Manda Amaroi that it's fit to be Mekabel Tumah. This is fit to be Mekabel Tumah if you make it into a patch. Hanami Roi Di Bai Chashiv Alei. You could think about it right now that it should be a patch, and then it would be Mekabel Tumah. Mandam davar mekabel tuma. It has to be something that is already susceptible to contamination. If the blood goes on it, since right now you aren't using it as a patch, it isn't something that is mekabel tuma, and you wouldn't have to wash out the blood. Rav says a similar case. Beged shekisha v'lelet tzura ikebenayu. The nafkamina is a beged that you planned to embroider upon it a design. So if you plan to embroider upon it a design, so manda amaroi, it's fit to be mekabel tama. Hanami roi, because it's fit because you could change your mind and say, no, I'll use it the way it is. You could cancel your plans and say, you know what, I'll use it as it is. Mandam davar mekabel tuma, that it has to be right now mekabel tuma. It's not right now mekabel tuma because it's not a beged, it's not a keli until you do what you planned. Because it's not ready until you actually make the design. Rava says another example. Utzpah, a bedspread, a throw for a bed. The choshev alei lekatze, that you plan to trim. Ikebenayu. Mandamaroi, well, it is. Rabbi Yehuda says it has to be fit. Well, it is fit because you could just say, you know what, I'm not going to trim it. Hanami ru'uya. Mandam davar mekabel tuma. Right now, it's not mekabel tuma because you didn't trim it yet. Allah mekabel tuma ad mekatzele, until you trim it. Vatanya, like we learned, and by the way, vatanya is a strange word. It's a switch hitter. Sometimes it's read vatanya, we learned as a question, and sometimes, like over here, it's learned vatanya as a proof. And that's why when it's read as a question, Rashi says bitmiya, say it with bewilderment. Vatanya. When it's read as a proof, Rashi says b'nichusa, read it gently. So Vatanya we learned Reb Shimon Nasi Aimer, utzpa shechisha v'oleh lekatza. If you have a throw that you plan to trim it, Tahira, it's not mekabel tuma ad sheyakziena, until you trim it or until you're mavatal your machshava. Now the Mishnah says, ein ton kibbutz, you don't have to wash except where the blood is. Maybe you have to wash the whole garment if blood gets on it. The Tan Rabbanu Yochel nitazal mixes a beged. I might think if it spurts on part of the beged, yay, kol ha-beged ton kibbutz, you should have to wash the whole beged, which would make it similar to tumah. By tumah, if tumah affects one part, you need to be tovel the whole beged. So I might think maybe that if the blood gets on part of the beged, maybe you should have to wash the whole beged. Talmud Leimer asher yizeh, where it's sprinkled. You only have to wash the place of the blood. It's fit to be mekabel. Not that it is mekabel tuma. It's fit to be mekabel tuma. That's a stam mission like Rabbi Yehuda. As long as it's fit, meaning you could decide now that it could be mekabel tuma by being mevatel the trimming, by saying that you're going to use it as a patch. That's stomach to Rabbi Yehuda. It's an anonymous mishnah like Rabbi Yehuda. Roy lekibus. It has to be something that is fit for washing. Now, what's not fit for washing? L'ma'ute kli, that this excludes a utensil. A utensil is not washed. A utensil is scraped. You scrape off the blood. L'ma'ute kli the bagridahu, which is scraped and not washed. Echad ha-beged ve'echad ha-sak ve'echad ha-or. There's a chiyuv of washing by a garment, by sackcloth, and by leather. Oh, so this is interesting. Is leather something that we wash? Remember the orbar kibisu, reminu. We learned on Shabbos. Remember, on Shabbos is an issa d'oraisa to wash. So haisa alav lishleshes. if there's dirt on a pillow, mekaneach b'samartut, you wipe it off with a rag, no water, don't use water. Hoisa shel or, but if it's leather and it has dirt, noisin lo le'amayim ad shetichla, you could put water upon it until it disappears. So you see that by leather there isn't washing, because if it was washing by leather, you wouldn't be able to do it on Shabbos. Amar Abaya loy kashet, there's no difficulty. It's takamachloikis. Harabanan ha'acherim. One is going according to the rabbis, and one is going according to the others. Others, generally Reb Meir, who was penalized to be called acherim because of a incident. The Tanya, habeged vasak mechapsei, clothing and sack. If blood comes on it, you wash it. Hakliva or migarai, but a utensil or leather, you scrape it off. So you talk the Chachamim hold that there isn't washing by leather. They say you scrape it. Acherim Aimrim, but the Acherim Reb Meir, and that fits in because Stam Mishnah is like Reb Meir. Acherim Aimrim abeged vasak va'or mechapsai, clothing, sack, and leather, we wash it, and keli, we scrape it. Megard says Gemara, Kaman also Hadam Reb Chia bar Ashi. Zimnin Sagin, many times have a Ke'imne Kamei de Rav. I was in front of Rav, maybe some mud got on his shoe on Shabbos. Have a Ke'imne Kamei de Rav. V'shachshiche le mesane, and I would rinse off his shoe b'maya with water on Shabbos. So that would seem to be that there's no problem of washing or on Shabbos. So come on, who would this be going like? This would be going to Rabbanan. Rabbanan say that or is scraped and not washed. I'm a Rava. So Rava says, no, this is problematic. Is there an opinion that leather is not washed? It's a pasuk. It's a pasuk by Tzaras. Va'beged, cloth, or yashsi, or the warp thread, or your erev, or the woof thread. These are the different horizontal and vertical threads on a loom. Oy kol kliya or leather utensils, asher techabes, which you wash. So you see that there is washing by leather. What are you going to do about that? Well, it says it's washing by leather. So Rava adds a new variable. Whether it's soft or whether it's hard. Alama Rava, Kro Masnisin are posik that says that there's washing by leather, and the Mishnah that says that is washing by dam, by leather. That's talking about barakin. That's talking about soft leather. Ki pligi the machloikis chachamim nacherim is talking about percussion with hard leather. Hard leather, so the Rabbanan hold it's scraped, while the acherim hold that it's washed. Says the Gemara, I v'amar Reb Chia zimnin segin avikaimna kamei Rav. Many times I was standing before Rav v'shakshichle misani b'maya, and he rinsed his shoe in water. Says the Gemara, that's no problem. It's talking about percussion. It's talking about a hard shoe. Ukurabanan, that a hard shoe, there's no washing. It's only scraping. However, Rava doesn't like this explanation. Rava retracts. This is the pursuit of emes, the pursuit of truth. Hada Amar Rava, Lav Milsihi de Amre. It's not a good answer that I gave. Because you're going to say that the pasuk by Tzaras, when it says leather, is only talking about soft leather. The pasuk says kleyar. utensils of leather, which implies any kind of potential utensils of leather. Are you going to establish the pasuk? That it's only talking about soft leather? Mila Yaskinon isn't the pasuk when it says clay are talking even about the clay aksalgia, hard boiled leather, haba medin sayam that comes from the islands, and yet v'ka'amar rachman and nibai kibus, it needs washing, which implies that even by hard leather it needs washing. So Rava comes up, you see, this is the Talmudic mind. Rava says, we're talking about tsaras. When tsaras breaks out in a beged, since it comes from the interior of the beged, even if it's a hard beged, it softens it. Alama Rava tsaras, kevan de migufe kaparcha, since it breaks out from the interior of the beged, mechalchalale, it softens it, umashvelarach, and makes it soft, and therefore that's why there's washing. But Amar Rava says, ikashali, if I still have a difficult on this subject, hakashali. This is what's difficult to me. Because there's another case. It says, karim muksasais, pillows and cushions. Now obviously pillows and cushions are soft. So karim muksasais derachininu, usnan, we learned, if haisa shel ar, if they're made out of leather, on Shabbos, noisin oleh mayim ad shetichla. You could introduce water until the dirt goes away. So you see that even where it's soft, there's no problem of kibus. So Rava now adds a new variable. This is what we do in the Gemara. Right? We figure out, we get the exactness of halacha. Ela Amar Rava, kol kibus the less like kiskus. Any introducing of water where you don't rub the materials together. Kol kibus the less like kiskus, where there's no scrubbing involved. Loish make kibus. That's not considered washing. Says the Gemara, I va'amar Reb Chia bar Ashi zimnin segin avikeim nekame de Rav. Many times I was by Rav. V'shach shechei le'mesane b'mayim. And he rinsed the shoe in water. He only rinsed it, he didn't rub it. Shech in aval kibus lai. But shech in rinsing it, yes. Aval kibus lai, but not rubbing. So the Gemara says, ibarachin, if it's soft leather, that would be asur kedivrei hakol, according to everyone. Ibikashin, if it's hard leather, then it would be kacheim, like Rav Meir, who says that even by leather there's washing, and that's why he didn't scrub it, he only introduced the water. Says the Gemara, ihachi, if it's only a problem of scrubbing, then beged nami, then why can't you introduce water on the pillow and just not scrub it? Ihachi beged nami. So says the Gemara, a new idea. By cloth, just the introducing of water is enough to be considered kibus. Beged shri asay zel kibusay. Just soaking it on water, just pouring water on it is washing it. That's why if your wife says, you have a stain on your pants, let me put some water on it, you're not allowed to do that on Shabbos. Because just introducing water is a problem. Rava l'tamei, dama Rava, zorak suder l'mayim. If you put your turban into water, you just put it in water, chayiv, that's an Isser Shabbos. If you did it on b'meizid, it's kares. If you did it b'shageg, you have to bring a chatas. Zorak pishtin l'mayim chayiv. If you throw flaxseed into water, you're chayiv. So the Gemara says, well, let's hold it. Bishlai Masuder, I would understand why putting the turban into water, you're chayiv, because of it kibbus. We said that just introducing water is considered washing. Elazera pishtin my time, but why if you put the flax seed in the water, why are you chayiv? So you'll say, well, maybe it grows and it's planting. The chitema mishum de mikadach, because it sprouts. Well, if the reason is because it sprouts, why is it only flaxseed? It should be wheat and barley too. Nami says the Gemara, no. By flax, there's a completely different isser. Hanach islu rirei. Here there's a problem that the flax secrete a mucus, and when you introduce them in water, they fuse together. And as we'll see, when you cause different pieces to fuse together, that's the issa doraisa of a lush, of kneading. There's a very big question people ask, can you take a cereal and introduce it into hot water and on Shabbos and make it into a cereal?
Like a cream of wheat?
Right. And the problem is lush, because you're taking different components and it's fused into one mass. That's a problem of lush, even if it's not a problem of bishul. Let's say the water is not hot enough, and let's say it's already pre-cooked, whatever it is, but it's a problem of lush. So says the Gemara, but if that's true, then shlochim nami, then hides you shouldn't be able to put into water, because they also have a mucus and they also will come together. Says the Gemara, no, hasam by the flax ka'avid lisha. That's kneading. They become one mass. The hides don't become one piece. You don't want them to become one piece, and therefore it's not a problem of lush.
So does Rava retract from what he said earlier, that kol kibas to less like kiskus, love shmei kibas? Or he's just defining it on something hard?
No, he doesn't retract. That's the din by or.
By or, but everything else is just mine.
Yes, what did you ask?
I said, if the skins are giving off a mucus, they're going to stick together, so I mean, what's the difference?
Because that's not what he wants. That's not a meleches machshavas. He doesn't want the hides to stick together. Here he wants the flax to come to one mass. Now, Darish Rava, mutar lechabes minol b'Shabbos. You're allowed to wash a shoe on Shabbos. Now, that would seem to imply that you could even scrub it, because he said you could do the whole, the whole 9 yards. So Amalei Rav Papa l'Rava, so Rav Papa said to Rava, I v'amar Rav Chia bar Ashi, zimnin sagir, many times, have a ke'im nekame de Rav, I was standing before Rav, v'shach shechei le misani b'mai, and only allowed me to rinse the shoe in water. Shech in, rinsing, yes, aval kibus lai, but not to scrub it. So right away, Rava corrected it. This is the sign of a true gadol. Hadar uke Rava amoira olei v'darish. Rava got a broadcaster and darshaned. Dvarim shamarti lefneichem, that which I said before you. Torah saying biyadi. I made a mistake. You can't scrub a shoe. Bram, in truth, kach amru. This is what the sages say. Shech mutter. You could just rinse it. Kibbutz asa, but to scrub it would be forbidden. Now we learned in the Mishnah, hakibbutz b'makom kadosh, that washing has to be in the azara, and we said the breaking of the earthenware vessels. Remember, the earthenware vessels, when you cook in it, let's say a carbon, so the absorption enters, and after a day or 2 days it becomes nicer. And you can't purge an earthenware vessel, so you have to break it. So the breaking of the earthenware vessels is also done in the Kodesh. And the purging and rinsing of a metal keli is also done in the Kodesh. So the Gemara says, where do we know all this information from? Menani Mili. The Tana Rabbanan, Techabeis b'makom kodesh, you wash it in a holy place. Okay, that's the washing. Shvirus klei cheres minayin. How do we know we break the earthenware vessel in a makom kodesh? Talmud Lamer, it says a connecting vav. After it says you wash it b'makom kodesh, it says uchlei cheres asher tuvushel bo yishaber, and an earthenware vessel which you cook in it is broken. The connecting vav connects it to the first part where it says b'makom kodesh. What about the purging and the rinsing of a copper keli? Again a connecting vav. If it's a copper vessel, bushala, which you cooked in, or marak v'shutav b'mayim, you have to purge and rinse in water. Again, the connecting vav to the beginning of the pasuk, which says b'makom kodesh. So the Mishnah ends off Zevachim Daf, this that we have to wash out the blood from the garment is a chaymer of chatis over other kachim. So the Gemara says, excuse me, is this the only chaymer that chatis has? V'suleka v'ika shenichnas dama lifnei ulifnim. Chatis is the only carbon that you bring on Yom Kippur into the Kodesh Kodashim. Says the Gemara, b'chatas achitzainis. We're talking about the chumrah of an outer chatas, not an inner chatas. Well, but there is a chumrah she'im nichnas dama lefnim psula, that if you bring the blood of an outer chatas inside its puzzle, which is unique to a chatas, says the Gemara, no, it's going to Rabbi Kiva damar kol damim shenichnu suleika l'chaper psula. Any blood, like the blood of a shlamim, or the blood of an ashim that you bring inside instead of doing outside becomes disqualifies. But chatas is a big chumrah. It's mechaper for an isser karas. Chatas is a mechaper. Somebody sleeps with a sister, eating chaylev, eating dam, entering in the mikdash while he's tamei. Says the Gemara, shekei mechaper and al chayve krisis. Says the Gemara, it's talking about chatas the shmiras hakol. It's talking about the chatas were one who had a court-administered oath, which is not an isur karas. But she came to una arba matanis, you have to do 4 placements, while the other karbanas you do either 1 or shtaim shein arba, 2 which are 4. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shmuel, it's going like Rabbi Shmuel, damar kol damim tunin dala matanis. All bloods need 4 placements. Rabbi Shmuel says on the 2 sides, you have to do, let's say when you do it on the northwest side, the northeast side, you do 1 on the north, 1 on the east, and on the southwest you do 1 on the south and 1 on the west. So everything needs 4. Says the Gemara, yeah, but chatas is still more chamer because it's not enough to do it on 2 sides, you have to do it on the 4 corners. Al dalet kronis, it has to be on the 4 horns. Well, the Tamech says the Gemara, and is that the only chumrah? There's many chumras. It has to be not only on 4 sides, Hoika Karen has to be on the horn, Hoika Etzba has to be with the finger, Hoika Chuda has to be on the edge. Elachad betray Tosa Chumrei Naket. This is just one of 2 or 3 different chumras that there is by chatas over other kachim. Oh wow, this was done pretty quickly. We're going to stop over here, save the Mishnah for tomorrow. I want to welcome in Saba, Dr. Guy, Yaakov Warman, Irving Fishbaum, Rabbi Kranz, Yitzi Fute, Shalom Fogel, Barry Cement, Menachem Yamansky, Mel Zachter, Ruven Pollack, Dr. Block, Dali Engel, Danny Vogel, Yisrael Fisher, Michal, Nachman Chapler, Mo Kushner, Eddie Chazan, Naftali Jablin, Stephen Holtzman, Moshe Lehman, Yitzi Muller, Ilya Shutman, Ilya Yafi, Avram Zepkowitz, and Shelley Zeitlin. We're now going to do the Chumash. Actually, it's not a Chumash here. It's a Chanukah shir, a special edition Chanukah Gems 5786. And everybody is welcome to join us. Wow. With this shir, I finished this notebook. I got to get a new notebook.